here's where you would state your name. Um, so what is your age and the state you live in?
27, Orlando, Florida.
Hi, my name is Elsie. I am 23 years old and I live in the state of New Jersey.
Hi, my name is Marial, and I am 30 years old, living in the state of Florida.
Hey, my name is Max. I am 23. Nevada is where I live. I am a proud trans man, and this is part of my life, part of who I am. And I hope it helps somebody and lets them know that they're not alone, that this is going to be okay. If God's with us, who can be against us? Let's start the show.
Okay. At what age were you first abused? By who? And how did it make you feel?
At 4, by a family friend. And at that point, I didn't feel anything just because I didn't know it was wrong.
Okay.
I've been molested 4 times. The first 2 times were by my mother's uncle at the age of 8 and 9. And the other 2 times happened when I moved to Boston, Massachusetts in 2008 with my biological father, and this was in high school. This was by a kid that was in my class. I felt the first 2 times that it happened when I was younger, I felt very strange. I felt awkward. I felt, believe it or not, disgusted within myself. I guess that's when self-esteem issues started uproaring. I was a social little girl, but at the same time very antisocial, and I was always taken back by things. I never really wanted to talk to anybody. And the other 2 times that happened when I was living in Boston, I remember I didn't want to speak to my father. I felt very anxious all the time. Somebody could be talking to me, and just by hearing them whisper or just by feeling their breath on me or just near me, I would get jumpy. And I was very antisocial. Like, that's when I can say, like, very antisocial. I didn't want to go out anywhere. I didn't want to eat. I was very skinny. I looked very unhealthy. And I just remember I wanted to just get away from Boston, and I wanted to actually run away, find a way that I can run away from Boston to come back to New Jersey so I can be with my family, because at that time I did live by myself with my father, and it was just too much. I just had a whole lot of things, and the most tragic thing that has happened to me, that's where I started developing my cutting issues. I would hide in the bathroom every morning before I had to go to school. This is when I lived in Boston. I used to hide in the bathroom every morning and find a spot where I can just cut. And I used to grab myself with so much anger and so much hatred and so much disgust that I started just cutting. And I remember telling myself, you have to find a way to run away, or you're going to have to find a way to self-harm yourself, so that all of your anxious and panic attacks and anger and self-hatred and self-esteem and all of this nonsense can just stop, and it can just silence itself.
First sexually molested at the age of 5 by my mother's uncle. How did it make me feel? I really don't know. At the age of 5, of course, you are extremely confused. I didn't know what was right or wrong. All I knew was that it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like somebody who I knew and called an uncle was supposed to be touching me in any kind of way. He kissed me, and yeah, that was the first time. At the age of 7, I was molested by a cousin. At the age of, between the ages of 7 and 12, I was molested by my older brother. At the age of 12, I was molested by my father. At the age of 12, I was molested by another male cousin and also a female cousin. The first time it happened to me, like I said, at the age of 5, I was completely clueless. I didn't know what was right or wrong. The next time it happened by my cousin, it was more like hey, you're my cousin. You shouldn't be doing this to me. But I still didn't speak up. This was at the age of 7. And around that age, my brother started coming into my room. I knew it was wrong, but by this time, I was sort of used to my family taking advantage of me, so it was more like a I'm used to it type thing, and I never said anything. I sort of wanted to, but I didn't. The first time that I got the courage to speak up, I was 12 years old, and it was because I realized that my father at the time molested my younger cousin, and that was the first time ever where I was like, oh shoot, I guess this is something just that my family does, as sick as it is. But I knew I didn't want my little cousin to get hurt, and that was the first time ever that I decided to speak up.
So I was 8 the first time it happened, and he continued to do it until I was 11. But he wasn't the only one. There was another guy when I was 9, and then was another guy when I was 11. So, but those guys only had one time. My first time being abused when I was 8 was by a babysitter. Somebody my mom trusted, somebody I trusted. Come to find out, it wasn't fun. The 2 other times were teenager boys thinking it was funny, but it wasn't. And it made me feel less of myself. I didn't understand, I couldn't get it. And not having my family around, not having my mom around, I kind of just took it all in and hid it. And I honestly didn't even tell her until I was like 20, 21. And by that time, it was too late to do anything. But it feels better to know that I told them and they know.
Did you attempt to tell anyone, get help? If so, if so, who and what were their reaction? And was their reaction what you expected it to be?
I didn't tell anyone. I didn't talk about it till I was like maybe 10, 11. And it was with like a friend. Their advice was basically to not say anything because it had already been so long. And then that's when I had eventually knew that that wasn't right. That I wasn't supposed to be touched or anything like that.
No, I didn't get any help. And yes, I did tell someone. I told my father and I told my mother. And I also told my older brother. When I told my mom, I wish I hadn't. My mom didn't speak to me. She changed with me. She was more angry with me. She wasn't there at all for me. When I told my mom, I remember that same day, she had an appointment later on in the evening to go see her psychiatrist. And I told her, it's okay, I'll go with her. And I was just so terrified that night. I was the whole entire way over to the office. I was so scared. Like, I felt like I told my mom that I was pregnant. The psychiatrist, asked me a whole bunch of questions, and she determined that I was dealing with a lot, and she wanted to put me on medications, but I declined, and I said no. I don't want to go on medications because I've seen my mom on medications, and I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to be like my mom.
At the age of 12, I think that was the first time that I attempted to have courage to speak up. And what was the reaction? Well, I tried to tell my mom that I didn't even tell her my story, but I tried to tell her that my dad had sexually molested my younger cousin, which was 9 at the time. And the reaction, I think, was probably the scariest thing. I think all victims would be afraid to be. And her reaction was, you better not tell nobody in the family. As a 12-year-old, you're probably like, I don't know what I thought at the time, honestly. It was more like, wow. It was more like a wow factor. Like, the only people that I trusted or should have been trusting was my family, and they didn't care. So, I stayed quiet. I didn't think about telling anybody else because you would think hey, it's family. They're supposed to have your back, but boy, was I wrong.
Did I tell anybody? No, I didn't tell anybody. And I didn't tell anybody because I was 8. I didn't know what was going on. I know I didn't like it, and I wanted it to stop. I know it irritated me some days, and it made me go crazy. I know it caused a lot of my anger that I have nowadays, and a lot of the thoughts on life nowadays. It wasn't easy. My mom never knew. My stepdad didn't know. My dad didn't even know. Nobody knew, and being at my age, I didn't know who to tell, who to talk to, what to say, how to say it, what's going on. And I remember one time I was sitting on the couch with my mom, and she asked me, we were watching a movie, and some kid was being molested, raped, abused, and she paused the movie and she looked at me and she's like, if anybody ever did that, would you tell me? And at that time, it was happening, and I looked at my mom and said, okay, that's fine, I'll tell you. And I asked her, how would you feel? And she's like, I would hurt him, I would kill him, blah, blah, blah. And that's not something I wanted to hear. And then she looked at me one more time and she's like, are you sure there's nothing going on? And I said, yeah, I'm sure. Because at 8, 9, little elementary kind of person, I didn't know. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to tell her. And being, at that time, a single mom, you can say, and trying to raise me on her own sucked. And hearing something like that, trusting in somebody that you kind of knew, it was just like, wow, mind-blowing.
So after speaking up, example, did you share Did it help to share your story? What did you feel that you gained or lost?
I felt like when I did say something, I said it to the wrong people, so it didn't help. And then I regretted saying things, and then I felt like maybe I should have said something when I was younger to my parents, maybe, so I can seek help or like have some type of closure. But because it had already been so long and there was things that I couldn't remember, I just never really said anything.
I remember one day I heard my mom telling my grandmother what happened, and my mom told my grandmother that I'm a mentirosa, that I'm a liar, that I shouldn't be falsely accusing anybody on anything that has to do with touching me or having sex with me or anything like that. So my mom was just in denial. It just hurt so bad to hear my mom call me a liar. And I was just so freaking angry with myself. And I was telling myself, how could you tell your mom? What were you thinking? I was hoping for my mother and myself to have a better relationship, to have an open line of communication that we've never had. And that was the way that it was going to happen. This was the start of it. And it just backfired on me. So bad. So bad. And I remember she told me, you have to tell your father. And that was worse. I thought the same thing. Maybe, my mom, she didn't hear me. She didn't care. Maybe my dad would care. Growing up, I was daddy's little girl. And anything that I said, and my dad was just there for me. Or so I thought he was. And when I told my father, he got so enraged that he ignored the fact that I was there. And he just picked up the phone, and my mom was crying and mad, and my dad was mad, and my dad just kept saying, I want to kill this guy, I want to kill this guy, I want to kill this guy. And he ignored the fact that I was there. And I was so mad at my father for even calling my mom. Even though my mom did tell me, tell your father, I was very upset with my dad because I was living with my mom at that time, and my mom was already ignoring me. She was very upset with me. Everything that I did, even breathing next to her, was annoying her. And my father pushed me to go to court and take legal actions. I didn't know what was that, but I thought what my dad was telling me was the correct thing to do. But even though this person, they're out of the country, if he decides to ever step foot in this country, he's getting arrested for what he did to me. But still, that didn't solve anything that was emotionally and mentally going on with me. So I felt that my mom and my dad never really heard me. Never. They did and said what wanted, how do I say, like, they wanted me to react the way that they think that I should have reacted, which basically was not say anything at all and just keep my mouth shut and just keep it moving, because that's what my mom has done in her life. And that's what my father has done in his life. They really ever spoke about what they were feeling. But their body languages surely spoke for them when I was growing up. And it just hurt me to the core. I didn't want to speak to any of them.
How did I feel? The first time I was terrified. I was very scared to tell my mom. But the first time that like I said, I had the courage to say anything, I was shut down. So I felt lost. I felt betrayed. I felt angry. I felt like I should kill myself because I had no purpose. I felt like everybody around me was just wanted to take advantage of me one way or another. So the first time was a bad time, for sure. And then as I got older, I spoke up again when I was 21 years old. So from the age of 12 to the age of 21 years old, I was lost. I was lost. I had no purpose. I had nobody. I made it past the age of 21 by the grace of God, because without him, I didn't know anything else, you know? I never reached out for help again. I think I would tell who I was in a relationship with, because I felt like it was important for them to understand me as a person. But I never reached out for help. I never believed anybody would believe me. I never believed anybody would listen. I found no purpose at the time in reaching out for help, because those who I thought would be there for me weren't.
I was 21 and 22 when I finally told my family. I lived in a different state at this time. I still do. And I called them up and I told them. The reaction was shocked, angry, vicious, anything else, just like any normal parent would be. And then all of a sudden my mom cried. And it hit me. Like, wow. And hearing her cry and say, it's my fault, I'm sorry, I should have been there, why didn't you tell me, and everything else, it was hard and it was difficult. But I told her it was okay, that I forgive him, I forgive you guys, I forgive everything, that God has me, and he did it for a reason, stuff happened for a reason, and I can't judge him, you can't judge him, nobody can harm him. He'll just have to explain it later up above. And when they found it out, they didn't like it. But in my mentality on how I felt, I was like, I can't let it destroy me any more than it already has. Pretty much my whole childhood, my teenager years, into my adult years. And when I finally told them, I realized it's not my burden anymore. I'm not carrying it anymore. I gave it to God, and God's gonna handle it. And letting my family know and understand, it was hard, but they got it. They're disappointed because I won't let them do anything about it, and I won't let them bring it up anymore. But as any person that's ever been abused, physically, mentally, sexually, you don't want to hear it again. You don't want to have the salt in the wound. You don't want them to keep digging. So that experience pretty much made me who I am today. And that's why I forgive him. And that's why I forgive myself for not telling anybody either.
How has your life been impacted after what occurred? Emotionally, mentally, and physically?
I feel like mentally it made me kind of not have respect for myself. So growing up, I felt like men don't respect women. And I didn't understand the concept of respecting myself because I felt like that was taken away from me. So from the age of like 12, 13 till about 20 years old, I was like very sexually active. And after becoming an adult, I felt like it had to do with that. When I realized the issue that I had, the sexual issue that I was having, I seeked help myself. I never opened up to my parents about it, opened up to anyone about it. Eventually one day my dad told me that he knew something that happened after. When I was 14, I was raped again. And the fact that he didn't really seem compassionate about it, he was kind of like, it happened because you put yourself in that situation. It made it worse. It made me feel like maybe it was my fault. So I think I was 18 when he found when we had that conversation. So it just made me be I guess angry at the world, angry at everyone, that I didn't have any self-control of myself, my life, what I could make decisions of, because of things that I decided to do, it made me get raped or get molested as a child.
Emotionally, mentally, and physically. Emotionally, I am still dealing with it. I guess after, me opening up and telling my parents about it, and they started telling family members here and there, what has happened. I never really got support for anything, so I basically been having to support basically myself, emotionally, and mentally. So in a way, I've been just suppressing things. I don't like talking about it at all. My mental health is kind of a blur. Some days I'm happy, some days I'm sad, some days I'm very anxious, some days I'm so angry at the world that I kind of just want to just turn off the light and just pray and just pray to God that he can just give me some guidance to just take this burden away. I just been dealing with, especially in this, a lot. I kind of find myself at fault for suppressing it and kind of brushing it under the rug in a way so I don't have to deal with it, because it's just, there's so much pain there. There's so much pain that I'm scared to kind of put the key into open up the lock and open up that treasure chest that's just filled with just pain and hatred and so much anger. And me thinking back, to when I was cutting myself, that was very depressing for me. And I just been, dealing with a lot, but then, I kind of just take a step back and just breathe and tell myself, you're not the only one who's been going through this, and believe it or not, there's people who've been raped and stuff, and at least, I'm thankful, and never went that route. But, at least I'm alive every single day. I give thanks to God every single day that he's kept me alive for so long. And he wakes me up every single day just so I can continue taking those steps forward to heal and get over the hurdle and just unzip this vest of so much pain so I can just throw it away and kind of get back to who Elsie really is. Mentally, emotionally, I'm a wreck, but, I don't let or just anybody in general around me, I don't let anybody know how I'm feeling, because I don't want to be vulnerable again, because it takes me back to what I told my mother And she called me a liar. I never want to hear those words ever again. I don't want anybody judging me. I don't want to feel alone. I just don't want it anymore. Physically, I've gained a lot of weight. I eat my feelings every single time that I have a flashback of what these two horrible people did to me. Then on one side I have my mother calling me a liar. I have my father acting irrational. It's just everything comes together and it just hits me so hard that I just turn to food. And I'm very, very unhappy with myself. And it's sad, I'm 23 years old and I feel like I'm still at the standstill. And I feel like as much as God is telling me to go forward, I can't go forward until I let this go.
Has my life been impacted? Emotionally? Whew. You can say that I was not emotional for a very long time. I was cold. I was heartless. I was mean. I held grudges. Emotionally, it fucked me up. There's no better way to put that. But emotionally, I also gained strength. I gained that knowledge on how to control my emotions. No longer allowing people to hurt me or faze me or even say anything where, to the point where their actions and words no longer fazed me. To the point where I disconnected completely with my past and allowed it to stay there. Mentally, same thing. Physically, I was one of those that completely let go of themselves. I let go completely. I didn't care. I would eat my feelings. I attempted suicide. So that's mentally and physically. It was very bad. It was very fucking bad. Physically, it's been a journey. I think that people that have been abused struggle to find themselves more and to accept their bodies and to even allow people to touch them again after experiences like that. I know that in all my relationships, it's been very difficult to the point where it's damaged my relationships in certain ways because building that comfort, allowing people to touch me in certain places, allowing the lights to be off. It's a terrible feeling, but it's something that I take a day at a time. I build that comfort now. And I've learned, again, that my past shouldn't be affecting who I am today, what I allow today, and the decisions that I choose to have with my body.
as you could possibly tell, my emotionally, mentally, and physically, it was all confused. So being at a young age and having that done and trying to be a normal teenager, it was hard. It was difficult because I didn't know what love really was. I didn't really have a chance to lose my own virginity. I didn't get everything that every other woman had or had a chance to experience. I pretty much had everything taken from me, and it made me angry. It made me mad, and emotionally, I was everywhere. I've been bipolar. I have anxiety. I have panic attacks. It drove me crazy. Physically, I was gaining weight, trying to be ugly so nobody would touch me, nobody would come near me, nobody would give me affection. I did everything to push people away. I didn't want anybody close to me. I didn't want anybody near me. I wanted everybody away from me. I wanted to make everybody hate life as much as I did. And mentally, it made me who I am today. But it's in there, and I see it, and I understand it. But since I've told my family and they understand now, it's not much of a bother anymore. It's not much of it in my ear telling and talking and just thinking about it. I remember a couple days ago I was talking to my stepdad, and he was telling me about what my mom and him talked about, and then he asked me about the guy. And I told him I didn't want to talk about it, but out of curiosity, I don't even know why, I asked his name because something inside of me, I can't remember his name. I can remember the car he drove, what he looked like, how tall he was, and everything else. But for the life of me, I couldn't remember his name. So that's, to me, it's like God telling me, let it go, let it pass, it'll be okay, I have you. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Mentally, physically, and emotionally, I am getting better now. And as long as I keep faith that everything's going to be okay and I have him right next to me, I'm good. And that's all that really matters.
Okay. If you can say one thing to your aggressor, what would it be?
I don't know. I'm not angry anymore. Like, I don't have any anger or hate dumb at this point in my life. I just feel like I put that behind. I understand that not everyone has the same views of things, and I wish that when someone has a problem, whether it's a sexual problem, whether it's they got raped or anything that ever happens to you that it's not right, I wish that people would get help. I wish that I would have got help. Maybe if they would have spoke out about what they wanted to do to someone, they could have got help and it would never happen to me. It wouldn't happen to other people. So
you wouldn't have anything to say to them directly.
no.
Okay.
If I can say one thing to the aggressors, what would it be? And I'll just keep it short. I would forgive them. I've seen and I know life is very, very short. And I don't want to continue life feeling angry and feeling hate towards anybody, especially these two individuals, you know? And I know in order for me to get better and in order for me to gain even more strength and empower myself and have the courage to, you know, go forward in life, to achieve any goals that I want to achieve for myself, I have to forgive and I have to let go. And I do want to let go of this baggage. And I do forgive them. And I don't hold any grudges against them.
If I can say anything to my abusers, It would be, wow. You know what? I wouldn't even entertain the fact just because I know the answers. Of course, you'd want to ask the million and one questions like, why me? Why did you do it? And judge them based off of what they did. But it's hard enough understanding why they did it and not wait for that apology, not wait for that explanation. It took me a long, long time to realize that I no longer wanted an apology. It was more important for me to understand why they did it than it was for me to receive an apology that might never come. It's very easy for us to put ourselves in a situation where we judge people based off of their actions. You know, it would be very easy for me to judge my brother, judge my father, judge my mother, judge my family in general. But what if? What if they were abused? What if that was normal to them? What if they went through it and they're just living it forward? Who am I to judge? One thing that you have to understand is that I forgave all of my abusers. I see them today. I didn't do it for them. I did it for me because it was important for me to have that peace and that state of mind. Peace is something that no apology will ever, ever give you. All I know is that I did my duty, and that was to let them know that I'm awake. And I know what they did. And they will never, ever hurt anybody else because my voice matters. And when I spoke up, I told my whole entire family. I warned all of the mothers and fathers, because if anybody else got hurt in my family because of the people that are in it, it was no longer going to fall on me. So if I was to say anything to them, I wouldn't need to. I really wouldn't. I did what I had to do for me. I was selfish for once, and that gave me the peace that I have today.
If I can say one thing to any of those people that did what they did to me, most people will be like, F you, beat them up, like my family. I want to hurt them, I want to do this, I want to do that. No. I would say I forgive you. I hope this experience changed you as much as it changed me. And you'll have to explain it later. And just leave it at that. But then I tell myself, I have nothing really to say to them. Nothing. It's like a toss-up right now. Like, I can't say I forgive you and let it go and da-da-da. But they don't need to know that. They don't need to know anything. I can forgive them on my own. I can forgive them in my heart. I can forgive them in my mind. And I can forgive them in my soul. Doesn't mean they need to know. They did what they did. And if they forgive themselves, they forgive themselves. If they don't, I'm sorry. But I forgive you. And I'm here now. You're not stopping me. You just made me stronger. And I hope you realize that.
All right. Did your parents know your abuse happened or what was going on? I think you already addressed that one.
They didn't know about what happened when I was 4, but they knew about what happened when I was 13.
Okay. And what do you think are signs that mothers and fathers should look out in their kids if they are suspicious that their child is being abused?
I think that there should always be a line of communication between parents. Um, since a young age, I think that parents should already start talking about these things to kids, especially in our generation. Is something that happens a lot. Kids are already like sexually active and know about these things before you even know them. So I think that communicating with your children is like the major key. Letting them know about what's right, what's wrong. I didn't have that growing up. My parents were very strict and very old school. They never touched the topic of sex till like 15, which it was already obviously too late. So I didn't know between right or wrong because of them. I knew that that was wrong because of other things. And then I was scared to tell them because I felt like it was my fault.
The answer to the first question is no. My mother and my father did not know what was going on. And at that time, I didn't dare to tell them about what was going on, especially about a family member that was constantly always around in our house. So I kind of just made pretend nothing ever happened and kind of suppressed everything with school and, how many books can I read within certain minutes so that I can be a part of, certain school projects. When that person was in my house, I would ask to go to my aunt's house or my grandparents' house so that I just wouldn't be around that specific person. When it comes to parents, like mothers and fathers and their kids, I think that parents should try their hardest and no matter what to have an open communication with their kids. I think that's what my parents lacked. They were just focused, too focused on their divorce and what each other wanted, and they were hating each other and all this negativity that they forgot to be present and have that line of open communication with their children. So I think that parents should, no matter what, have that open line of communication and teach their children to always just defend themselves and stand for what's right. And if something wrong has happened or happened to them, they should not feel threatened or feel afraid to speak up and stand up for themselves, no matter what. I think parents should also, very, very importantly, should be involved in knowing, who are their kids' friends, their parents, the neighborhood, the school, know everything on the palm of their hand, just in case if something were to happen, there's no mystery questions, going on. That's just my personal opinion.
Did my parents know? Well, clearly my father was one of my abusers. He never truly knew till I was an adult about my other abusers. I feel like my mother always knew, but was in denial about it. So, for the most part, yes, I feel like my parents knew. What would I tell parents? What would I tell parents that are watching this video? To believe your children when they speak up. It isn't normal for children to lie about things like that. To protect your child, to speak to them, to guide them, to trust them, to be completely honest with them and let them know that there are monsters out there, real ones that hurt you. I would tell them to talk to their children about the no-touch zones, about not allowing people to touch them anywhere, whether it's family or a stranger or anybody. I would tell them to build that comfort with them to be able to speak up if something was to happen. To always ask them, to not allow strangers to pick them up, to not allow family and friends to constantly take them over their house, because that's one thing. People worry so much about strangers when more than 80% of sexually abused victims are abused by family members. More than 80%. And that 80% is based off of the open cases. Imagine all the silent ones that refuse to speak up because they're afraid. There is no age that's too young for you to guide your child in the right path. Speak to them. They will understand. And it's better for them to know than to not know and not know what to do if the situation happened. Give them that choice, please. Say that you can always tell when a child has been abused, but that's not always the case. I think that as parents, we just know. We know when something's wrong. We know when our child changes. We know when our child starts acting different, starts shutting down, starts refusing to see or be around certain people. Wake up. Really, wake up, because it's your responsibility. Me, I was very good at pretending like everything was perfectly fine. If my life was a movie and you were to look back, you would think I was the happiest little girl ever. Because I refused to ruin my family, so I thought. So I did everything possible so that people didn't suspect that there was something going on when there was.
The question was, did my parents know? No. Did they think? Maybe. Did they second guess or have a little hint here and there? I think my mom did, a little bit here and there. She asked questions, and like I said earlier, she asked me one day, and I told her no, and I should have told her yes, but I was 8. How are you gonna sit down and talk to your mom? That's hard. My other siblings weren't around. My dad wasn't around, and my stepdad was working, so it was hard. But I did have a lot of anger. I didn't like wearing dresses. I didn't like anything that had an open and easy access, you can say. And my mom never understood that. She thought I was just lashing out or being a tomboy or just being vicious. And it's not even like that. Some signs parents can look for in a kid is probably mood swings, mood changes, self-harm, like I did. There's different ways to everything. If you know your kid and you understand your kid, you should know if there's something wrong. You should know if there's an issue. You should know if they're being bullied. You should know if they're depressed. You should just know. It's an instinct that most parents have, but a lot of parents are blind too. And that's okay. Nobody's perfect. But something people should look for is that, to stop it, to let it go, and to be open to their kids, to understand their kids, to just sit down and talk to them and ask if anything's wrong. But then again, my mom did the same thing, and I told her no. So, honestly, me as a parent, if there was anything wrong with my child, I would know. I know my kid like the back of my hand. And me being in my position that I am, I'm more prepared, more ready, and more open to what's going on. And hopefully I will show my child the same thing, that they can come to me, that they can talk to me, that I'm not going to judge them, that I'm here to help them. Something I will stress to them all so much that my family never did. And I think if more parents were kind of like that and more open and more understanding, we wouldn't have a lot of the abuse, sexual, physical, mental, anything. What's going on, and hopefully I will show my child the same thing, that they can come to me, that they can talk to me, that I'm not going to judge them, that I'm here to help them. Something I will stress to them all so much that my family never did. And I think if more parents were kind of like that and more open and more understanding, we wouldn't have a lot of the abuse, sexual, physical, mental, anything. But sexual abuse wasn't the only thing I went through, so it's something different. It's all different. Just all I can say is, if you know your kids and you love their kids and you have a gut feeling and you feel it and you know it, ask them. Ask them. Look at them. Look deep in their eyes. Look into their soul. Look at them and feel it and ask and be like, hey, something going on. Are you okay? Check them. Because, in all honesty, being not just sexual abuse, mentally abused, and physically abused on my end, I had cut myself, tried to attempt suicide, ran away, physically harmed myself against walls and everything else. I was like a tipping time bomb. I wanted to explode because so much was going on. And maybe if my parents stopped thinking I was just lashing out at them, they wouldn't have got so angry, or my dad wouldn't have beat me because I was trying to be a man or act like something I'm not or whatever else. And it's not like that. All I can say is pay close attention to the life you gave to somebody. Pay close attention to the people you love, and pay close attention to every sign in life. Because no matter what, there are signs, there are ticks, there are little hints to show you that there is something wrong. You just are blinded to it. Hopefully, one day, people understand. And it's okay to be blinded to it when you're working for your kids, when you're handling stuff, when you're doing what you need to. It's okay, because life gets stressful, everything gets stressful, but sometimes people need to take a step back and realize, okay, there's something wrong with my kid. Not just...
Has this affected you in your personal relationships? And if so, how?
I don't feel like it's affected me with anyone personally. It's affected me with relationships with men, when I've been with men. I kind of started, when I started having sex, I started giving it up too soon because I felt like that's all it was about. And I just felt like it became like a problem. Like I had a sexual problem. I wanted to have sex all the time. I wanted to be with someone, and in the midst of it, I kind of felt like I wanted to get away from it being something that I didn't want, to being with people or with men that wanted me. So I wanted to feel love, but I was looking for love in the wrong way.
I've been in a committed relationship with my fiance, who's a girl. I love her with all my heart. We're about to make 6 years, with God's willing, this May, happily engaged. But even though I love her with all my heart, I have trust issues. She does know what's happened to me, and she's been there for me, but she hasn't really been there for me. She kind of just pushes anything that has to do with abuse away. I don't know, it's, she's never really opened up to me about any abuse in her life or anything like that, and I try to be as much as like open as I possibly can with her. But again, I have trust issues. I don't trust her with a lot of things, especially when it comes to what I'm personally going through. I just rather just shut myself out and not show her any signs of me crying, any signs of me being anxious, any signs of me being angry. I'm kind of numb, but not numb at the same time, and I know it's affecting our relationship, and it saddens me sometimes because this is the person who I want to marry. This is the woman of my life. She is the person who I want to have eventually kids with. She is the person who I want to build a future with. And here I am, basically stuck on stupid sometimes. And I don't want to give her the chance to know any more about anything that I'm going through internally or mentally. I don't want to give her the chance to, later on we get into like some silly argument and then she uses something against me, because it's happened to me before. I just don't want to go through any more sadness. I don't want to go through any more pain with anybody else. I'd rather just deal with it myself. But I am trying very hard to kind of, little by little, give her the chance to basically kind of help me open up sometimes. Like, sometimes like she kind of like wants to like shake me and tell me, hey babe, like I'm right here. Like you can cry if you want to cry. You can be angry if you want to be angry. You don't have to be so subtle or so dismissive with things. You're human, and sometimes I forget to kind of just switch on my feelings, and I just sometimes just want to, most of the time I'm tuned out with certain things when it comes to us and our relationship.
Has this affected my relationships? For sure. It's affected, I think, every relationship I've ever tried to had, whether it be a friend or a partner. It affected me emotionally, physically, mentally, every possible way that you can think of. Because people that have been hurt and molested or abused or raped, it's hard for you to build that trust. It's hard for you to allow anybody to touch you. It's what we call triggers. Something that brings you back to the past. They might touch you or say something in particular, and it brings you back to the past. And I used to allow it to take over me and take over my relationship. But I've been fortunate enough to learn, to grow, and to blossom and to trust myself, not even who I'm with, but more myself. Know that I deserve a chance at happiness, and me holding on to the past and holding on to my abuse will never allow me to be happy. And that needed a change, and that change came first with me before it involved anybody else.
This has affected a lot of my relationships. I have been with both sex, men and women, and it destroyed me. When I was with a guy, I couldn't touch him, I couldn't sleep with him, I didn't want anything. And when I was with a woman, it was, I'm the man, but I was vicious. I was angry because I didn't want them to touch me. I was what you considered a no-touchy stud, as they call it. And for a lot of people that don't understand that, that means don't touch me, but I can touch you kind of thing. And it's just, it doesn't matter if it's kissing, hugging, sexually, anything. It's don't touch me. And then one day it just clicked that it's okay to feel love. It's okay to be kissed. It's okay to have somebody touch you and that actually loves you and not just using you like a sack of potatoes. So it's something that did destroy a lot of my relationships, and something that does cause a lot of my anger, and I try not to let it bother me anymore, and I'm getting better at it. It just takes time. Everything takes time. Rome wasn't built in a day, and I wasn't either. So it will get better. I know it will.
What would you say to the child version of you then and as an adult now?
I would say to even if you go to the wrong people and try to open up to them, to not be scared so that it doesn't happen to other people. Just tell someone, and even if they shut you down, just keep going.
What would I say to the child version of me? I would say, you are so worthy. I would say, don't give up. I would say, try speaking up to somebody else. I would say, it's not your fault. I would say, I would say there's a purpose behind it. I have this very strong belief that God chose me for this life, for what has happened to me, because He knew that I was strong enough to make it and make something absolutely fucking beautiful out of what happened. I would say, you are beautiful, and never doubt that. I would say, live. I will say, you will see. I think I should have told that to myself a lot. Might not seem like anything, but even if I believed in myself at the time and believed that there was a reason why everything and why my life was so incomplete and why I was lost most of my life, it was because I needed to find myself. And if I hadn't endured everything that I endured, I wouldn't be here today, happy and free, in love, loving life, an amazing mother at that, an amazing partner. I wouldn't be everything that I am today if it wasn't because of my past. So would I take it back? Hell no. I am the woman that I am because of it. And if I could change absolutely anything at all about my past, I can honestly say today, at the age of 30, that I wouldn't change a damn thing.
What would I say to me as a child, as being an adult now? I think I would told myself, hey, speak up, say something, or fight it off, or do something. Don't just let it happen and be scared. Don't just run from it. Don't just hide from it. Don't bottle it up. It's okay. Your mom's here for you. It's okay. Your family's here for you. Don't fear. God's with you. You have to be strong. And if I could tell myself that, if I can just go back and tell myself it's gonna be okay. God has you. Your family has you. It's not that hard. You're not alone. Things happen, and we just have to make the best out of it. And maybe one day that would have been nice, but all I can do now is tell myself that now and be proud of myself now of who I am and what I'm doing, and pass it on along to my kids and let them know it's okay. I'm here for you. God has you. I have you. Your family has you. Everyone has you.